Gesserit lady, a duke's concubine, and a mother of the ducal heir. Is it Gom Jabbar something of Arrakis? I must know before we go there, he wondered. He mouthed their strange words. Gom Jabbar, Kwisatz Haderach. There had been so many things to learn. Arrakis would be a place so different from Caladan that Paul's mind whirled with the new knowledge. Arrakis, Dune, desert planet. The Virawat, his father's master of assassins, had explained it. Their mortal enemies, the Arkanans, had been on Arrakis 80 years, holding the planet in Quasi-Vive under a CHOAM company contract to mine the geriatric spice, melange. Now the Harkonnens were leaving to be replaced by the House of Atreides in Vive complete, an apparent victory for the Duke Leto. Yet Awad had said this appearance contained the deadliest peril, for the Duke Leto was popular among the great houses of the Landsraad. A popular man arouses the jealousy of the powerful, Awad had said. Arrakis, Dune, desert planet. Paul fell asleep to dream of an Arakian cavern, silent people all around him moving in the dim light of glow globes. It was solemn there and like a cathedral. As he listened to a faint sound, the drip, drip, drip of water. Even while he remained in the dream, Paul knew he would remember it upon awakening. He always remembered the dreams that were predictions. The dream faded. Paul awoke to feel himself in the warmth of his bed, thinking. This world of Castle Caladan, without play or companions his own age, perhaps did not deserve sadness and farewell. Dr. Yue, his teacher, had hinted that the Frafralush's class system was not rigidly guarded on Arrakis. The planet sheltered people who lived at the desert edge without cade or pasture to command them. Will of the Sand people called Fremen marked down on no census of the Imperial Brigade. Arrakis, Dune, desert planet. Paul sensed his own tensions, decided to practice one of the mind-body lessons his mother had taught him. 3 quick breaths triggered the responses. He fell into the floating awareness, focusing on the consciousness, aortal dilation, avoiding the unfocused mechanism of consciousness, to be conscious by choice, blood enriched and swift flooding the overload regions. One does not obtain food safety freedom by instinct alone. Animal consciousness does not extend beyond the given moment, nor into the idea that its victim may become extinct. The animal destroys and does not produce. Animal pleasures remain close to sensation levels and avoid the perceptual. The human requires a background grid through which to see his universe, focused consciousness by choice. This forms your grid. Bodily integrity follows nerve blood flow according to the deepest awareness of cell needs. All things, cells, beings are impermanent. Strive for the flow permanence within. Over and over and over within Paul's floating awareness the lesson rolled. When dawn touched Paul's window sill with yellow light, he sensed it through closed eyelids, opened them, hearing then the renewed bustle and hurry in the castle, seeing the familiar patterned beams on his bedroom ceiling. The hall door opened and his mother peered in, hair like shaded bronze held with a black ribbon at the crown, her oval face emotionless and green eyes staring solemnly. "You're awake," she said. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes." He studied the tallness of her, saw the hint of tensions in her shoulder as she chose clothing for him from the closet racks. Another might have missed that tension, but she had trained him in the Bene Gesserit way, in the minutiae of observation. She turned, holding a semi-formal jacket for him. It carried the red Atreides hawk crest above the breast pocket. "Hurry and dress," she said. "Reverend Mother is waiting." "I dreamed of her once," Paul said. "Who is she?" "She was my teacher at the Bene Gesserit school. Now she's the Emperor's truthsayer. And Paul," she hesitated, "you must tell her about your dreams." "I will. Is she the reason we got Arrakis?" "We did not get Arrakis," Jessica Arrakis family holding, but the Reverend Mother ignored the view. She was feeling her age this morning, more than a little petulant. She blamed it on space travel and association with that abominable spacing guild and its secretive ways. But here was a mission that required personal attention from a Bene Gesserit with the sight. Even the Petitious Emperor's Truesayer couldn't evade their responsibility when the duty call came. Damn that Jessica, the Reverend Mother thought. If only she'd born us a girl as she was ordered to do. Jessica stopped 3 paces from the chair, dropped a small curtsy, a gentle flick of the left hand along the line of her skirt. Paul gave the short bow with his dancing master had taught, the one used when in doubt of another station. The nuances of Paul's greeting were not lost on the Reverend Mother. She said, "He's a cautious one, Jessica." Jessica's hand went to Paul's shoulder, tightened there. For a heartbeat, fear pulsed through her palm. Then she had herself under control. "Thus he has been taught, Your Reverence." What does she fear? Paul wondered. The old woman studied Paul in one gestalt and flicker. Face oval like Jessica's, but strong bones. Hair the Duke's black, but with brow line of the maternal grandfather who cannot be named, and that thin, disdainful nose, shape of directly staring green eyes, like the old Duke, the paternal grandfather who was dead. Now there was a man who appreciated the power of bravura, even in death, the Reverend Mother thought. Teaching is one thing, she said. The basic ingredient is another. We shall see. The old eyes darted a hard glance at Jessica. "Leave us. I enjoin you to practice meditation of peace." Jessica took her hand from Paul's shoulder. "Your Reverence, Jessica, you know it must be done." Paul looked up at his mother, puzzled. Jessica straightened. "Yes, of course." Paul looked at the Reverend Mother. Politeness and his mother's obvious awe of this old woman argued caution, yet he felt an angry apprehension at the fear he sensed radiating from his mother. "Paul," Jessica took a deep breath. "This test you're about to receive, it's important to me." "Test?" He looked up at her. "Remember that you're a Duke's son," Jessica said. She whirled and strode from the room in a dry swishing of skirt. The door closed solidly behind her. Paul faced the old woman, holding anger in check. Does one dismiss the Lady Jessica as though she were a serving wench? A smile flicked the corners of the wrinkled old mouth. "The Lady Jessica was my serving wench lad for 14 years at school," she nodded, "and a good one too. Now you come here." The command whipped out at him. Paul found himself obeying before he could think about it. Using the voice on me, he thought. He stopped at her gesture, standing beside her knees. "See this?" she asked. From the folds of her gown she lifted a green metal cube about 15 centimeters on a side. She turned it, and Paul saw that one side was open, black and oddly frightening. No light penetrated that open blackness. "Put your right hand in the box," she said. Fear shot through Paul. He started to back away, but the old woman said, "Is this how you obey your mother?" He looked up into bird-bright eyes, slowly feeling the compulsions and unable to inhibit them. Paul put his hand into the box. He first felt a sense of cold as the blackness closed around his hand, then slick metal against his fingers and a prickling as though his hand went to sleep. A predatory look filled the old woman's features. She lifted her right hand away from the box and poised the hand close to the side of Paul's neck. He saw a glint of metal there and started to turn toward it. "Stop," she snapped, using the voice again. He swung his attention back to her face. "I hold at your stands guard outside that door. Depend on it. Your mother survived this test. Now it's your turn. Be honored. We seldom administer this test to men children. Curiosity reduced Paul's fear to a manageable level. He heard truth in the old woman's voice, no denying it. If his mother stood guard out there, if this were truly a test, and whatever it was, he knew himself caught in it, trapped by that hand at his neck, the Gom Jabbar. He recalled the response from the litany against fear as his mother had taught him, out of the Bene Gesserit rite. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. He felt calmness return, said, "Get on with it, old woman." "Old woman," she snapped, "you've courage, and that can't be denied. Well, we shall see, Sarah." She bent close, lowered her voice almost to a whisper. "You will feel pain in this hand within the box. Pain. But withdraw the hand, and I'll touch your neck with my Gom Jabbar. The death's so swift, it's like the fall of the headman's axe. Withdraw your hand, and the Gom Jabbar takes you. Understand? What's in the box?" Pain. He felt increased tingling in his hand, pressed his lips tightly together. How could this be a test, he wondered. The tingling became an itch. The old woman said, "You've heard of animals chewing off a leg to escape a trap. There's an animal kind of trick. A human would remain in the trap, endure the pain, feigning death so he might kill the trapper and remove a threat to his kind." The itch became a faintest burning. "Why are you doing this?" he demanded. "To determine if you're human. Be silent." Paul clenched his left hand in a fist as the burning sensation increased in the other hand. It mounted slowly, heat upon heat upon heat upon heat. He felt the fingernails of his free hand biting the palm. He tried to flex the fingers of the burning hand, but he couldn't move them. "It burns," he whispered. Silence. Pain throbbed up his arm. Sweat stood out on his forehead. Every fiber cried out to withdraw the hand from that burning pit, but the Gom Jabbar. Without turning his head, he tried to move his eyes to see that terrible needle poised beside his neck. He sensed that he was breathing in gasps, tried to slow his breaths, and he couldn't. Kwisatz Haderach. Sit down, little brother, here at my feet. I prefer to stand. Your mother sat at my feet once. I'm not my mother. You hate us a little, eh? She looked towards the door, called out, Jessica. The door flew open and Jessica stood there, standing hard-eyed into the room. Hardness melted from her as she saw Paul. She managed a faint smile. Jessica, have you ever stopped hating me? The old woman asked. I both love and hate you, Jessica said. The hate, that's from the pains I must never forget. The love, that's just the basic fact, the old woman said, but her voice was gentle. You may come in now, but remain silent. Close that door and mind it that no one interrupts us. Jessica stepped into the room, closed the door, and stood with her back to it. My son lives, she thought. My son lives and is human. I knew he was, but he lives. Now I can go on living. The door felt hard and real against her back. Everything in the room was immediate and pressing against her senses. My son lives. Paul looked at his mother. She told the truth. He wanted to get away alone and think this experience through, but knew he could not leave until he was dismissed. The old woman had gained a power over him. She spoke truth. His mother had undergone this test. There must be terrible purpose in it. The fear, the pain and fear, had been terrible. He understood terrible purposes. They drove against all odds. They were their own necessity. Paul felt that he had been infected with terrible purpose. He did not know yet what that terrible purpose was. Someday, lad, the old woman said, you too may have to stand outside a door like that. It takes a measure of doing. Paul looked down at the hand that had known pain, then up to the Reverend Mother. The sound of her voice had contained a difference then from any other voice in his experience. The words were outlined in brilliance. There was an edge to them. He felt that any question he might ask her would bring an answer that could lift him out of his flesh world into something greater. Why do you test for humans? He asked. To set you free. Free. Once men turned their thinking over to machines in the hope that this would set them free. But that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them. Thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of man's mind, Paul quoted. Right out of the Baudelairian Jihad and the Orange Catholic Bible, she said. But what the OC Bible should have said is, thou shalt not make a machine to counterfeit a human mind. Have you studied the men taught in your service? I've studied with the Pharaoh. The Great Revolt took away a crutch, she said. It forced human minds to develop. Schools were started to train human talents. Bene Gesserit schools. She nodded. We have two chief survivors of those ancient schools, the Bene Gesserit and the Spacing Guild. The guild, so we think, emphasizes almost pure mathematics. Bene Gesserit performs another function. Politics, he said. Kolwahad, the old woman said. She sent a hard glance at Jessica. I've not told him your reverence, Jessica said. The Reverend Mother returned her attention to Paul. You did that on remarkably few clues, she said. Politics, indeed. The original Bene Gesserit school was directed by those who saw the need of a thread of continuity in human affairs. They saw that there could be no such continuity without separating human stock from animal stock for breeding purposes. The old woman's word abruptly lost their special sharpness for Paul. He felt an offense in what his mother called his instinct for rightness. It wasn't that Reverend Mother lied to him. She obviously believed what she said. It was something deeper, something species of Bene Gesserit descent or her stock was acceptable in itself.